college football editor. He'll do lesson. But for that, we want to hear from you. We want passionate, die-hard fans to call in about their team and tell us where the conversation will go next. But right now, who's here? Kristen, good to see you here. Already in. Let me know where you're from, who your favorite team is. You know that phone. We want to hear from you on our phone. The number is 615-5040. And right now, we're going to stuff on National College Football Editor 27 Sports. It was one week with a couple of your business weeks all world.
The rest of the country perceives it. But if the Badgers do, then Saturday made them the big winner, 38-0 over Michigan State. Their fourth shutout of the season. The first team since the 60s to shut out that many teams this far in advance. Wisconsin's given up 4 touchdowns all season. So I think their Michigan team that's in the east side of the conference as a peer of Wisconsin, this was a throttling. Jonathan didn't even get going. So the fact that Wisconsin could do that to somebody means that the Badgers are in the discussion of the top teams in college football. When you talk Alabama, when you talk LSU, when you talk Oklahoma, that Wisconsin. Let me read out. As far as defensively, Wisconsin is number 1 in total defense. They're number 2 in rushing defense. They have everything. Ohio State on the 6. I cannot wait. I cannot be more impressed with what the Badgers are doing.
Yeah, the Badgers, you can't say enough about what they've done on defense. The most impressive stats, the same touchdowns as they've scored has. Impressive. My biggest of the week, LSU, Florida handily, 10 win of the season, improved to number 2 in the poll. But it's all about winners here. We also want biggest loser of the week, so go ahead and lay on us.
Georgia was 24.5-point favorites over South Carolina. Of course, they lost. And we can sit here and say, yeah, upsets happen in college football. We can also sit here and say, playoff. Georgia make the playoff. The problem is they were all over offensive line. We thought we'd average. South Carolina just its quarterback. Georgia coach physical. I don't see that from this team. I know the passing game in the league. He's 0-5. Georgia is 0-5 when he passes or more, and that's bad. I think that both of us.
Lockstep with you on this. You're right. They still make the playoff by winning out and win the SEC championship game. But with Alabama and LSU at 1 and 2 in the AP poll right now, that's looking highly likely. Moving on, Trey, any other takeaways from Week 7 in college football?
Yeah, this is my takeaway after seeing what LSU had with its new passing attack with Joe Burrow. I don't think different football national title without a passing attack. The last team to do that was Alabama when they had Jake Coker. And I know that was over a year ago, but it's in college. Given how they changed. Alabama running for an attack in Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor. He can't do what those guys are doing. He can't. 0-5. He was 0-5 when he throws for 30 passes or more. Meanwhile, LSU has had this total offensive attack. Has all of LSU's possible potential. The only team who could make me incorrect here is Wisconsin, but that's because its brick wall defense is historically maybe the best in college football history. But I think they're not going to win a national title. The quarterback who can be
spot on there. Offensive renaissance is a storyline in college football this year. See a team like LSU contender, the SFO Burrow. Their biggest take Week 7. We'll talk shortly. All right, and awesome stuff. Always is talking to the Ohio State. A lot of players saying, I hope you can think the same issue with videos around. Discuss regardless. 422-54. Please and you get that number is open now, and we're waiting to hear from you guys. While we're waiting for a call, you say we jump into the top 5 of it early. LS number 3 spot and Days down 3 spot. A couple of teams top 10. Georgia is now down. Texas is down 4 spots to number 15. We got some new teams, Minnesota, Missouri, App State, all in the top 25 now. And a few teams that were in, now out. Wake Forest, Virginia, Memphis, Texas A&M. I mentioned Wake Forest and Virginia. They were 2 ACC teams holding it down in the top 25. Now Clemson's the only one left from the ACC. 25 here ACC to hear why their teams are so far. Again, that number is 615-422-5240. I hope that the news starts to rectify itself here to hear from them after their biggest win of the season, taking down number 3 Georgia in between the hedges. All right. Let's take a look ahead to next week, and we'll see some of the matchups that are coming up. We just mentioned one of them. Number 9, Florida is visiting South Carolina. That game's on ESPN. It's one of the biggest matchups. The other 3 big matchups that I'll be watching, 2 of them involve ranked Pac-12 opponents. In number 12, Oregon, at number 25, Washington in the early afternoon on ABC, and then number 17, Arizona State, at number 13, Utah in the late afternoon on the Pac-12 network. Those are the 4 ranked teams in the Pac-12, and they play each other this week. So that Oregon-Washington game could determine who takes the lead in the North Division, and the Arizona State-Utah game could be what ends up deciding the South. So very interesting Pac-12 slate. If you're a fan of any of those teams, we'd love to hear from you. Please call in. Our number again is 615-422-5240. And then the final game that I'll have my eye on, I have my eye on every game, but the big game, the final big game that I'll be watching next weekend is number 14 Michigan at number 7 Penn State. That's in the evening on ABC. I can't wait for that matchup. Penn State looks legit, and Michigan has kind of bounced back since their ugly loss to Wisconsin. I know it's not been super smooth for the Wolverines, but they at least are hanging on to that number 14 spot, and they've got to go on the road to Penn State. I think it's going to be an interesting one for the complexion of that Big Ten East moving forward. All right, back in the comments section to see if anyone else. It looks like most of you are upset with the audio issues. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do to fix that right now. Hopefully you guys can call in still. Those of you who are getting a clean feed, the number 615-422-5240. If not, we'll just roll through the last remaining talking points that I have here, and we'll wrap up the show a little bit earlier today. They're already in the comment section now saying go Gamecocks. So I think we may only have South Carolina fans here left, unless you call in now with some thoughts on your favorite team. How about a Heisman update? Let's take a look at some of the Heisman contenders and where they stand after their performances in Week 7, highlighted by, of course, Tua Tagovailoa, the Alabama quarterback, who had another 4-touchdown performance. That one gave him the school record Alabama passing touchdowns, 81 in his career. Very impressive. We can jump back to that in a moment, but we've got a caller on the line. Welcome to College Football Roll Call. What's your name and who's your favorite team?
My name is Jamin Tate, and I'm a Ohio State fan.
All right, we got the Ohio State fans checking in. What's on your mind today?
Man, we really supposed to be in that number 3 spot, but we didn't play that week. But we really supposed to be in that 3rd spot.
It is funny because Ohio State was tied with Georgia for the number 3 spot, and then Georgia loses, and Ohio State is kind of penalized for it by moving down to number 1 because they were on a bye. I think it is a little dumb, too. I kind of agree with you, but I do also understand with LSU jumping up, that's really where the fall comes from. And when LSU plays against a top 10 opponent in front of everyone on national television, of course they're going to jump up on a week when Ohio State is off. But I'm not so certain that Ohio State isn't the best team in college football right now. We've heard Trey Scott allude to it earlier on this show. We've heard Brad Crawford say it in resounding fashion that they won't lose a game the rest of the way. So there's a lot of hype for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I do think they will end up higher than number 4 when everything is said and done.
And what I tell you, I told you Texas was going to lose. I told you OU was going to win again.
You're right. And you've been a loyal caller, and your takes have checked out so far. So thank you so much, and we hope that you continue to call in representing the Buckeyes and just dropping college football knowledge in general. How's that sound?
No problem.
All right, we'll hear from you again. Thank you. Our number is 615-422-5240. We'd love more calls just like that one. Let's go back to the Heisman update because Justin Fields is on that. Of course, he was on a bye this past week, so he has no stats to report, but he's still an intriguing candidate for the Heisman. Some other quarterbacks that are out there, Joe Burrow, of course, 21 for 24 this past week. Only 3 incomplete passes against a very good Florida defense, and the same amount of incomplete passes as he had touchdown passes, 3, and 293 yards. Also did some work on the ground, just couldn't fit it in the graphic there. And then Jalen Hurts had 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown in their win in the Red River showdown, rivalry, whatever you want to call it, over Texas. Very impressive performance from him. And then we got to give the running back some love, or the non-quarterback some love. Jonathan Taylor, 102 total yards, 2 touchdowns in a 38-0 win over Michigan State. And Trey Scott mentioned that was a game where Jonathan Taylor didn't really get going. He only had 80 yards in the ground on that game, got him over the century mark in terms of scrimmage with 22 receiving yards in that game, finished with 29 total touches. So big workload and not quite the yardage touchdown production that we're expecting from Jonathan Taylor. But when you look at his work as a whole this year, you can't deny him the Heisman candidacy. He's done a lot, and he's really made a name for himself as one of the top non-quarterbacks, if not the top non-quarterback in the country this year. So as we're checking in here on the comments section again, we have Dan says, "Go Badgers." Dan, would love for you to call in with your thoughts. I understand we're having some connection issues and our stream isn't going through quite right, which is really unfortunate because this is a good show after a wild week, and I'd love to get your guys' reactions, but I think that our connection issues and our stream issues are making us have trouble connecting to some of you guys. So I'll do my best to bridge the gap here, but we need you guys to call in 615-422-5240 like this caller right now. Welcome to College Football Roll Call. Who's your favorite team and what's your name?
My name is James and I'm a Michigan Wolverine fan.
James, glad to have you on the program. What's on your mind?
Well, I truly feel if Michigan can execute, they don't turn over the ball, and they play very sound defense, and at least keep Penn State at least between 17 to 20 points, I see no reason why they could pull the upset and we get the win.
Now, are you feeling confident after that game this past weekend because Illinois kind of got back into it, and I don't know if Michigan finished as strong as some Wolverines fans would have liked to see?
Well, in all honesty, I thought that we started the game very strong. We started running the ball a little bit better. Truth be told, I'm kind of an old school type fan in a way. I feel that we can be more balanced if we really get back to the old school kind of way. Nothing wrong with the I formation or the pro style. A pro spread is what they need to run. With the balance of Shea to be able to run and be mobile in and out of the pocket. I mean, if we had Denard Robinson, I'm not trying to compare. It's hard to compare different times and different coaching styles. But, man, if we had Denard now, man, I think we'd be undefeated because Denard, he was so good at the read option. I just think that, if we can just, focus on that and good defense, we should be able to get the job done. I thought we got lackadaisical in the second half of the Illinois game. Probably thought we had it in the bag, and they've made a good comeback, and we finally had to make some plays defensively, and we've got some more scores on the board, but that's just my thought.
We had a caller who didn't get through but was leaving a voicemail last week who said that Michigan needs to start Joe Milton at quarterback. And you mentioned Denard Robinson. Milton is a more athletic option, I think, than Shea Patterson at quarterback. So maybe it's something that they look to mix in moving forward. But they seem pretty committed to what they currently have got going on at the quarterback and on offense. So we'll see what happens next for Michigan. I appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much, and we hope to hear from you again, maybe after a Michigan win over Penn State. All right, great call. Thank you so much. Moving on, we wrapped up our Heisman talk, so let's do a little bit of a coaching checkup here as I dip into the comments section, see if anyone said anything new. Doesn't look like it. That's unfortunate, but that phone line is still open, 615-422-5240. If you've got something you want to talk about, now's your chance to call in and get that off your chest, because I'm about to do my coaching checkup here where we look at some of the, you could say this is kind of unfortunate. We maybe pick on some of the coaches who have had a tough time, but I think it's worth pointing out here. Lovie Smith lost to Michigan this week. That's his fourth straight loss at Illinois. Clay Helton lost again to Notre Dame. That's 3 out of the last 4 for him. Chad Morris at Arkansas still hasn't won an SEC game with the Razorbacks. They fell to Kentucky 24-20 on the road this past weekend. Scott Frost, is it time to hit the panic button for Nebraska fans? They lose 34-7 on the road. You could say Adrian Martinez didn't play in that game, and that's why they lost so poorly. But even if he did play in that game, I don't know if he's making up 28 points or however much it was that they lost by. Scott Frost is now 2-2 in the Big Ten on a season in which where they were expecting big things and expecting maybe to even make it to the Big Ten championship and challenge Ohio State or whoever was going to come out of the East. Willie Taggart at FSU lost to Clemson. It's kind of expected, but Taggart falls to 2-2 in the ACC. Derek Mason at Vandy. This is an interesting one. Vandy lost to UNLV this week, 34-10. They're now 1-5 overall, and then Jeremy Pruitt got on the right track. No picking on him this week. All right, we got a caller. Welcome to the College Football Roll Call. What's your name and who's your favorite team?
Yeah, this is Forrest Arnold, the Cowboy, calling in for the South Carolina Gamecocks.
All right, we got another Gamecock fan calling in. Glad to have you here. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to ask about the playoff, especially with this upset over Georgia. If we go knowing that the winner of LSU and Alabama is going to the SEC championship, and Georgia wins out, comes all the way back and beats them, we have 3 one-loss teams.
Oh, no, did we lose you? Are you still there?
Ohio State and Oklahoma both finishing out undefeated. Does one of those one-loss SEC teams, being LSU, Alabama, or Georgia, jump Clemson along with the SEC champion because of the strength of schedule to make the playoffs?
I do not think that they will leap Clemson based solely on strength of schedule. Clemson will have to lose a game. If Clemson loses a game, then maybe they start to look at the one-loss SEC teams. But right now, the way I see things shaking out, it looks like Clemson's going to be able to go the rest of the way. They had their scare against North Carolina. They should be able to go the rest of the way undefeated. Ohio State looks like they're fit to go the rest of the way undefeated. Oklahoma, after taking down Texas, should finish the rest of the way undefeated. So I think that path for a second and potentially earlier in the season, we were talking about a third possible SEC team making the playoff this year. I think that path and that doorway is getting narrower and narrower, assuming those 3 other teams I just mentioned do take care of business. If they start losing, if one of them drops a game, then we can start having that conversation. But until that point, I don't see how you leap a one-loss SEC team over the defending national champions due solely to the strength of schedule, which is something currently that's out of their control. So that's my thoughts on that.
All right, well, thank you, and go Cox.
All right, I appreciate you checking in. All right, so we've heard from a couple of South Carolina fans. I apologize for all of the issues that we're having with the connection. It's the second straight week that this has been the case, and I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board this weekend or this week and figure out why that is. But one of these days we'll get to the bottom of it and we'll bring you a clean feed, I promise. We've got one more caller here, and it looks like it might be another Gamecock fan. Welcome to College Football Roll Call. What's your name and who's your favorite team?
Hello, everyone at 247. My name is Casey, and I'm a Texas Longhorns fan.
Casey, the Texas Longhorns fan. What's going on, Casey?
I'm just so disappointed in our team. We lost to a good team, but I feel like our playoff hopes are out now.
Yeah, I don't see Texas making it to the playoff, especially with the loss to LSU earlier in the season. That's 2. Only one Big 12 loss. I guess they could rally and finish the season with no more losses and beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. And then you at least have a conversation to have for Texas in terms of playoff. But right now they need some chaos to help them out. And I just don't think that Texas is going to make it to the playoff this year. So maybe one more year, but we'll see.
You know what? Unfortunately, I agree with you, and I just don't think it's our year.
All right. Well, that's too bad, and I'm sorry, and I'm glad.
Go Horns.
I'm glad you called in, Casey. I appreciate you calling in. Thank you. All right. I think that we'll probably wrap things up a little early with the issues that we're having again this week and some of those things. So I want to say before we go, make sure you're tuning into the rest of our programs. Hopefully they launch without an issue. On Thursday, we have the College Football Show here at 247 Sports, hosted by Barton Simmons and Trey Scott, as well as Josh Ayler, Connor Tapp on that show. It's a star-studded cast, and you should absolutely watch. Followed by, we also have on Friday, Mike Versus. It's a virtual video game show that is a lot of fun. Everything in your wildest imagination. We make it happen on that show. Tune in to that. Threadheads as well, hosted by Ted Hyman, who is a very, very, very tapped into the design uniform world, and he does a great job on that show on Twitch. We also have I don't think we have a Saturday stream this weekend, but we have another one coming up soon. So make sure you mark your schedules for that. And we'll be back with you shortly. Hopefully next week of College Football Roll Call goes off without a hitch. We get a clean feed. We get a lot of callers, a lot of commenters, and we keep this conversation going because it's a fun show. I like doing it, and we got to get it off to a good start. But thank you for everyone who did bear with me this week and tune in. I appreciate it. For Colin Bell and the rest of the production team in the control room, I'm Kevin Boylard. Make sure you're keeping it locked to 247 Sports, where we're talking your team all the time. Ever wish the focus was on your team all the time? At 247 Sports, it is. Join us for the 2019 college football season. We've got all new message boards, podcasts, and live shows. Visit our website and make sure you're keeping it locked at 247 Sports, where we're talking your team all the time.